Hello, miladies of inestimable value. Never mistake a quiet woman for a harmless one. Silence is just her camouflage. Most people don't notice the quiet Sigma female until it's far too late. They laugh at her calmness, mistake her solitude for weakness, and think her silence means submission. But what they never understand is this. A Sigma female isn't silent because she's scared. She's silent because she's observing the fools auditioning for her indifference. Here's a psychological fact most people ignore. When someone repeatedly suppresses their boundaries, the eventual backlash isn't explosive, it's surgical. That's the Sigma female. She doesn't scream, she recalibrates. She doesn't plot revenge, she evolves into it. And by the time the people who pushed her realize what they've done, she's already 5 emotional dimensions ahead, sipping her coffee like nothing happened, except everything did. This is the moment her quiet becomes dangerous, her restraint turns strategic, and her energy shifts from, "Let's make peace," to, "I hope you packed a parachute." Because once she's pushed too far, she doesn't come back angry. She comes back different. Number 1. Her eyes start seeing everything they hide. When a Sigma female reaches her breaking point, her perception sharpens in a way that unnerves people. It's not something mystical or dramatic. It's survival intelligence that's been silently training while everyone thought she wasn't paying attention. She starts seeing patterns others miss. The fake smile that appears right after a cruel comment. The guilt hidden behind casual sarcasm. The hesitation before someone lies. Her eyes stop being just a mirror of emotion. They become scanners of truth. Before she was pushed too far, she might have brushed things off, given people the benefit of the doubt, or convinced herself that maybe she was being too sensitive. But not anymore. Now, she reads energy like a language. The tone of a text, the timing of a pause, the way someone looks at her when they think she's not watching. It all becomes data. And once she starts connecting the dots, there's no going back. She realizes that most people communicate more through what they hide than what they say. This newfound clarity changes how she interacts. She doesn't confront or accuse. She simply knows. The knowledge itself is enough power. She starts speaking less, reacting less, because she can already predict the behavior before it happens. When someone tries to manipulate her, she lets them think they've succeeded, while she mentally takes note of every tactic used. It's not paranoia, it's pattern recognition, forged through disappointment. What makes her dangerous isn't that she sees through people. It's that she no longer needs to expose them. Her silence now holds the weight of knowing too much. Those around her start feeling uneasy without understanding why, sensing that she sees parts of them they'd rather keep hidden. And that's her quiet victory. Not revenge, not rage, just awareness. Because when a Sigma female starts truly seeing, no mask survives her gaze. Number 2, she stops playing understanding. There comes a moment when the Sigma female stops explaining herself, stops cushioning other people's feelings, and stops pretending she doesn't see the games being played. For too long, she's been the one trying to make peace, trying to understand why someone acted cruel, distant, or inconsistent. But once she's pushed too far, the switch flips. She no longer wants to understand, because she finally accepts that some people want to be misunderstood. They thrive on confusion because it keeps them in control. She used to say things like, "Maybe they didn't mean it that way," or "I'll give them the benefit of the doubt." Now, she simply says, "I understand," and walks away. Those 2 words no longer mean empathy. They mean closure. It's her way of saying, "I see you clearly now, and that's enough for me to leave." The energy that once went into explaining, defending, or analyzing gets redirected into her own peace. She doesn't need to dissect other people's motives anymore, because she's learned that bad behavior doesn't need translation. It needs distance. When she stops playing understanding, her silence becomes unsettling. People who used to manipulate her with guilt or emotional chaos suddenly find themselves powerless. They can't provoke a reaction, can't twist her words, can't bait her into emotional debates. She no longer takes the role of the fixer or the explainer. She lets people deal with the discomfort of their own actions. The truth is, her understanding was never the problem. It was her tolerance. Once that tolerance dies, her emotional availability shuts down to anyone who refuses to match her honesty. She no longer needs closure, apologies, or explanations. She just detaches with quiet certainty. And that's what makes her so powerful. The calm finality of someone who truly understands not to reconnect, but to disconnect for good. Number 3, she rewrites the story they tried to control. When a Sigma female has been pushed too far, she stops letting other people define who she is. For the longest time, she let others narrate her story. The quiet one, the too serious one, the misunderstood one, the girl who doesn't fit in. They spoke for her because she didn't care to correct them. But when she reaches her limit, something shifts. She takes back the pen. She no longer lets gossip, assumptions, or misjudgments shape her identity. The story they built around her crumbles because she's no longer participating in it. She begins to speak and act in a way that rewrites the version of her people once believed. The woman they called cold becomes focused. The one they thought naive becomes untouchable. The one they dismissed becomes unexplainably magnetic. She doesn't need to prove anything. Her growth shows it. Every boundary she sets, every silence she holds, every choice she makes, rewrites the way people remember her. Suddenly, the same voices that once defined her start whispering, confused about how she turned out stronger without their approval. What makes her evolution powerful is that she doesn't do it for revenge or validation. She simply outgrows their narrative. She realizes that most people want control over how you're perceived because it keeps them feeling superior. When she stops caring about their opinions, she becomes free. And nothing threatens a manipulator more than someone who's rewritten their role in the story. She no longer lives as a character in other people's scripts. She becomes the author, editor, and publisher of her own truth. The same people who once tried to silence her now stumble to explain her transformation. Her success, peace, and self-respect become the plot twist they never saw coming. In reclaiming her story, she doesn't just take her power back. She exposes how small theirs always was. Number 4, she starts moving like a ghost, but a strategic one. When a Sigma female has finally had enough, she doesn't announce her departure or warn anyone. She simply disappears, emotionally first, then physically. It's not an impulsive escape or a dramatic exit. It's strategic. She becomes like a ghost, moving through spaces unnoticed, unbothered, and unreachable. The people who used to drain her energy suddenly realize she's gone, not because she blocked them, but because she's emotionally unavailable in a way that can't be undone. Her silence becomes haunting because it's not fueled by anger, it's powered by clarity. She stops explaining her decisions, stops trying to be understood, and stops sharing her plans. Every move she makes happens quietly, deliberately, and without trace. Her social presence fades, her availability vanishes, and she becomes unpredictable, not out of spite, but self-protection. She's learned that noise exposes intention, and she prefers power in privacy. People start hearing about her progress through whispers, not updates. Her name circulates in conversations she no longer attends. That's how she wins, not by confrontation, but by disappearance with purpose. The same people who took her for granted are left wondering how she managed to rebuild her world without them noticing. They replay old conversations, trying to find clues. But she's already several moves ahead, building something that doesn't include their chaos. Her withdrawal isn't weakness, it's evolution. She learned that being seen too much invites intrusion, and she values peace more than validation. What unsettles everyone is that she never explains why she left. No closure, no announcement, just absence, and that absence carries more impact than any argument could. She becomes a mystery again, but this time by design. The Sigma female who once tolerated too much has turned her invisibility into armor. And when she finally resurfaces, she's unrecognizable, calmer, sharper, and completely beyond the reach of those who once thought they owned access to her. Number 5, she stops seeking revenge, she becomes it. When the Sigma female is pushed too far, she doesn't plot revenge, she embodies it. Her comeback isn't loud or dramatic, it's quiet, steady, and undeniable. She stops wasting time trying to prove how wrong they were or how much they hurt her. Instead, she takes all that pain and turns it into fuel. Every moment of betrayal, every lie, every humiliation becomes raw material for her evolution. While others are busy gossiping or watching her for a reaction, she's already building a new version of herself, one they'll never have access to again. Her revenge is her transformation. She doesn't want to destroy anyone. She wants to become someone they can't reach, can't manipulate, and can't understand anymore. That's what truly punishes people who underestimated her, realizing she no longer cares about being understood or avenged. She grows so much that even the idea of revenge feels beneath her. But the irony is, that's exactly what makes her existence a living reminder of what they lost. She doesn't block them out of hate. She blocks them out of evolution. She's not angry anymore. She's enlightened. Her peace becomes intimidating because it exposes everyone still addicted to chaos. While they remain stuck in emotional drama, she's out there thriving in silence, smiling like nothing happened. And the beauty of it is, she's not performing happiness. She is happiness because she earned it through pain. The Sigma female's true revenge is mastery over herself. She becomes immune to manipulation, deaf to drama, and detached from approval. Her success, confidence, and serenity sting the most because they can't be taken away. The people who once tried to break her end up haunted by the fact that they only built her strength. She doesn't need to destroy them, her evolution already did. Number 6. She destroys illusions instead of defending herself. When a Sigma female is pushed too far, she stops wasting energy defending herself. The people around her will often try to manipulate her with lies, rumors, or carefully constructed perceptions. They think she'll argue, cry, or justify herself, but she doesn't. Instead, she methodically dismantles the illusions they've built, exposing the truth through her actions rather than words. She doesn't attack personalities or aim to humiliate anyone. She simply refuses to play by the rules they set. She sees the social hierarchies people cling to, the fake alliances they nurture, and the fragile reputations they guard, and she doesn't respect them. These illusions, which once intimidated or controlled others, mean nothing to her. By withdrawing, by acting with integrity, or by ignoring the games entirely, she exposes the emptiness of their power. Her silence or her calm choices highlight the fact that their control over her was never real. It was all smoke and mirrors, and she just blew the smoke away. Fake friendships crumble under her quiet influence because she no longer validates them. Reputations built on manipulation falter because she refuses to acknowledge them. The social stage they tried to trap her on burns not because she attacked it directly, but because she simply refuses to participate. Her power lies in her detachment and clarity, revealing the cracks in everyone else's facade without confrontation. By destroying illusions rather than defending herself, she shifts the focus from her to the truth. People see her calm competence, her unshakable presence, and realize their schemes never had any impact. She doesn't retaliate or justify. She transforms the environment around her by showing that the real strength isn't loud or reactive. It's quiet, strategic, and untouchable. And in that destruction of illusions, she becomes unstoppable, unassailable, and impossible to manipulate again. Number 7. She learns the art of emotional invisibility. When a Sigma female is pushed too far, she stops reacting in ways that others can predict or influence. She learns to disappear emotionally, mentally, and energetically, becoming untouchable in a space where she remains physically present, but completely inaccessible. People can talk to her, engage with her, and even demand her attention, but nothing penetrates the shield she's built. Her responses are measured, her energy withdrawn, and her engagement selective. It's not coldness for the sake of cruelty. It's a deliberate strategy that protects her and disarms anyone trying to manipulate her. This emotional invisibility transforms her into a force that can't be provoked. Those who once relied on guilt, drama, or emotional leverage suddenly find themselves met with a calm, unshakable neutrality. She's present in the room, but the energy they feed off is gone. Her reactions no longer confirm their importance or validate their attempts at control. Every attempt to provoke a response is met with silence, clarity, and emotional detachment. What makes this form of revenge so effective is its subtlety. She doesn't need to confront, argue, or expose anyone. The act of becoming unreachable is enough to shift power entirely into her hands. People begin to realize, often too late, that they've lost access to the very person they thought they could influence. The quiet frustration of others becomes her invisible armor, a reflection of her strength. This mastery of emotional invisibility allows her to protect her energy while maintaining absolute control over her environment. She can navigate social spaces, relationships, and challenges without exposing vulnerability. It's the ultimate quiet revenge. A Sigma female doesn't lash out. She vanishes in plain sight, and in that disappearance, she asserts dominance, self-respect, and power that cannot be challenged. Those who once underestimated her are left reaching for a presence that is there, yet entirely untouchable. Number 8. Her intelligence turns cold and strategic. When a Sigma female is pushed too far, her intelligence no longer serves comfort or connection. She stops trying to read people for empathy or to smooth over conflicts. Instead, every thought, every observation, and every insight becomes a tool, a calculated instrument of awareness. She begins to predict moves before they happen, noticing patterns and inconsistencies that no one else catches. The world that once seemed chaotic to her now unfolds like a map she can navigate with precision. She can spot manipulation, lies, and hidden agendas long before they surface. Conversations, glances, and gestures are no longer trivial. They're data points she collects and analyzes. With that understanding, she dismantles power plays quietly, efficiently, and without fanfare. People don't realize the moment they thought they were controlling her, she's already 10 steps ahead, anticipating their next action and neutralizing it before it even starts. Her intelligence becomes a shield and a sword simultaneously. She doesn't wield it to humiliate or punish. She wields it to maintain sovereignty over her life and energy. There's no emotional need driving her moves, no desire for revenge coloring her strategy. It's pure, calculated psychological precision. People might call her cold, but it's not coldness born of malice. It's coldness born of mastery. This strategic intelligence gives her freedom. She no longer falls for traps, doesn't waste energy on futile debates, and avoids being cornered. Every interaction becomes measured, every decision deliberate. Her mind operates like a chessboard, anticipating threats and countering subtle manipulations without ever appearing aggressive. When she's done, the people who pushed her realize too late that they were never in control. Her intelligence turned from a tool of understanding and connection into a force that quietly dominates every dynamic around her. She doesn't boast or declare victory. The results speak for themselves. And that's what makes her presence so terrifyingly effective. She wins without needing to fight in the traditional sense, because foresight and precision have become her most lethal weapons. Number 9. She stops being nice and starts being exact. When a Sigma female is pushed too far, she sheds the habit of being nice for the sake of comfort or social expectation. Niceness is easy to misunderstand, easy to manipulate, and easy to take for granted. She no longer offers it as a buffer for other people's insecurity. Instead, she becomes exact. Her words, actions, and even her silences are precise instruments, each one serving a deliberate purpose. Every interaction is calculated to produce the effect she intends, whether it's setting boundaries, exposing truth, or simply protecting her energy. There's a clear distinction between cruelty and precision. Cruelty is emotional and reactive. It lashes out without strategy. Precision, on the other hand, is intentional, controlled, and powerful. She doesn't aim to hurt for the sake of satisfaction. She aims to act with clarity. A single phrase can carry more impact than hours of argument, because it lands with the weight of intention. Her gestures and choices no longer entertain ambiguity or allow room for misinterpretation. They communicate exactly what needs to be communicated, nothing more, nothing less. Her silence becomes just as potent as her speech. By withholding responses when it matters, she creates tension, forces reflection, and lets others confront themselves instead of giving them excuses or explanations. Every pause, glance, and word serves as a tool in her strategy, like pieces on a chessboard moving with a plan no one else can see. Being exact also frees her from emotional clutter. She's no longer ruled by the need to please, apologize unnecessarily, or soften truths for comfort. Her decisions are guided by logic, clarity, and intent. She doesn't need validation because she operates in alignment with her own standards. In this transformation, she becomes untouchable. People who once relied on her niceness to manipulate or exploit her find themselves confronted by a presence that is sharp, deliberate, and unyielding. Every interaction with her now carries weight because she is no longer acting from habit or kindness. She is acting with precision. Number 10. She stops protecting people from the truth. When a Sigma female reaches her limit, she abandons the habit of shielding others from reality. For years, she may have softened her words, edited her truth, or held back observations to avoid hurting fragile egos. She carried the weight of other people's insecurities, thinking that mercy or tact could make the world easier. But once she's pushed too far, that patience disappears. She no longer edits her observations or cushions the impact of her words. The truth comes out, raw and unflinching, because she understands that shielding people only enables their illusions. Her communication becomes surgical. She doesn't speak to provoke or humiliate, but every word lands with brutal clarity. Lies, pretenses, and manipulations are exposed without hesitation. People who once relied on her tolerance or kindness find themselves confronted with the unfiltered reality they tried to hide from. She doesn't aim to be cruel, yet cruelty isn't her concern either. She simply prioritizes truth over comfort, knowing that facing it is the only way others can recognize their own failures. This shift also marks a release of her own burden. she stops carrying the emotional labor of constantly moderating interactions to avoid conflict. Speaking the truth frees her from performing patience for people who have repeatedly disrespected her boundaries. Her silence is no longer a shield for others, it's a weapon for self-preservation. By refusing to protect anyone from the consequences of their actions, she forces them to confront themselves. The mirror she holds up doesn't lie. It reflects every flaw, every deceit, and every weakness, and they see it unfiltered for the first time. It's uncomfortable, sometimes devastating, and sometimes liberating, but it's real. In this transformation, her words carry a weight that can't be ignored. People can no longer manipulate her silence or mistake her kindness for weakness. She becomes a force of unflinching honesty, and in doing so, she elevates herself above the chaos that once tried to control her. Number 11. Her memory becomes her greatest weapon. When a Sigma female is pushed too far, her memory stops being passive and becomes an active force. She doesn't need to plan revenge or lash out in the moment. She simply remembers. Every slight, every manipulation, every humiliating comment, every smirk, every subtle betrayal, all of it is stored with surgical precision. Nothing escapes her notice, and nothing is ever truly forgotten. Her memory isn't fueled by bitterness, it's fueled by clarity and self-preservation. She remembers not to hurt, but to protect herself. The lessons embedded in each memory sharpen her instincts, making her impossible to manipulate the same way twice. She recognizes the patterns in behavior, the strategies others use, and the weaknesses they expose when they think she isn't paying attention. Her memory becomes a mental ledger, a map of people, their tendencies, and their limits. She doesn't need to react immediately because she knows she can outlast everyone who tries to undermine her. Time becomes her ally, and memory becomes the engine behind it. People who underestimated her are often blindsided by this quiet power. They forget the impact of every word they've thrown at her, but she doesn't. She moves forward strategically, letting her recollections guide her decisions. She knows exactly when to engage, when to remain silent, and when to disappear, all based on what she's witnessed in the past. Her memory ensures she never falls into the same trap twice, turning past pain into future immunity. The most terrifying part is that she doesn't need to confront anyone. She doesn't broadcast her knowledge or flaunt the ledger she's keeping. Her memory itself is the weapon. It empowers her patience, fuels her strategy, and strengthens her detachment. People eventually realize that they're no longer in control, that the one they thought fragile is the one who has quietly outlasted them. In this way, her memory becomes her ultimate defense and her silent, unstoppable power. Number 12. She stops saving people from their consequences. When a Sigma female is pushed too far, she stops carrying the weight of other people's mistakes. She used to intervene, warn, and protect, believing that guiding others through their poor choices was a kindness, or even her responsibility. But once the line is crossed, that instinct disappears. She no longer steps in to soften the blows or shield anyone from the fallout of their actions. She lets people face the results of their own behavior, and she watches with quiet, unshakable calm. This shift isn't born of cruelty or vindictiveness. She doesn't take pleasure in their struggles. She simply recognizes a universal truth. People must face the consequences of what they do. By removing herself from the role of protector, she liberates her energy and refuses to be manipulated by guilt or expectation. Her past patience and intervention may have been mistaken for weakness, but now her restraint becomes a tool. She's no longer a safety net for those who repeatedly disrespect boundaries or exploit trust. The effect is subtle but devastating. Those who once relied on her warnings or guidance are suddenly forced to confront reality alone. They stumble, falter, and realize how much they depended on her presence. Meanwhile, she observes silently, unaffected, because her concern is no longer with saving them, but with preserving herself. She understands that justice, in its purest form, doesn't require her interference. It requires accountability. In letting people face the consequences, she shifts the balance of power. Her absence becomes a mirror, reflecting their mistakes back at them without distortion or excuse. The same individuals who expected her intervention find themselves exposed, humbled, and often unable to manipulate the outcome. The Sigma female doesn't celebrate this fall. She simply recognizes it as inevitable. By stepping back, she protects herself and allows the natural order of actions and consequences to unfold. In doing so, she becomes untouchable, no longer burdened by the weight of others' failures and fully in command of her own life. When a Sigma female is pushed too far, she stops being the quiet observer and becomes the force the world underestimated. Every slight, every manipulation, every moment of being overlooked is absorbed, processed, and transformed into something far more formidable than anger or revenge. She becomes unstoppable by design. She doesn't scream, she doesn't retaliate impulsively, and she doesn't beg for understanding. She evolves. Her silence carries weight, her presence demands respect, and her calm exposes the fragility of those who thought they could control her. The quiet woman people dismissed becomes a storm they never anticipated, not through destruction, but through precision, clarity, and self-mastery. The Sigma female's power lies in her ability to transcend the chaos around her. She destroys illusions without touching her integrity. She lets the truth speak with brutal honesty, and she becomes untouchable not by force, but by strategy, memory, and unwavering boundaries. Her evolution isn't loud, it's seismic. Those who underestimated her, who played with her patience, and who crossed her boundaries are left confronting a reality they cannot manipulate. She doesn't need to prove anything to anyone, because her life, her growth, and her calm superiority are already the proof. This is the essence of a Sigma female's danger. She stops seeking revenge and becomes it. She stops explaining herself and rewrites her own story. She stops saving people from the consequences of their actions and lets justice unfold naturally. She stops being nice and becomes exact. She stops protecting fragile egos and speaks with unflinching clarity. And in every move, every silence, every choice, she asserts the ultimate truth. Underestimating her was the biggest mistake anyone could make. If you found yourself captivated by the unstoppable transformation of the Sigma female, make sure to subscribe to the channel to uncover more truths about Sigma dynamics. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts or experiences, and share this video with anyone who needs to understand what happens when a quiet woman reaches her limit. Trust me, people underestimate the quiet ones at their own peril.